going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hangout Spot where you already know it's Real Talk Sports Talk, live from my man cave. It's your boy Johnny, and we're going to mix it up today, and we're going to talk some boxing. That's right, because this is 2024, and like I promised everybody, we're going to do it up differently and with a lot of different sports topics. And boxing is the one that I'm most passionate about. And I think that's the reason why I've gotten a lot of subscribers that have been asking, like, when am I going to start talking about boxing? So I figured it was only fitting to kick off our first boxing video here at the Hangout Spot wearing the shirt of who I feel is the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali. And we discuss the pound for pound list, or more specifically, my top 10 pound for pound. And I think the pound for pound list, and most boxing fans are going to agree, is super intriguing. Because besides what the media has out there are fans that constantly create their own list. I'm in a few boxing chat groups on social media, and these are topics that we always debate about. Because realistically, if you ask 100 boxing fans what their list is, you're probably going to get 100 different answers. I mean, there will be fighters on that list that everybody's going to agree on, and then there'll be some that they don't. But more importantly, I think what the debate is where they see them ranked. Because who I may see as the top fighter, they may not. Everybody has a different opinion in boxing, and that's why I love to talk boxing and debate with true fight fans. But at the end of the day, again, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And that's what I love about boxing, because fans are going to see fighters different. They're going to judge fights differently. They're going to root for certain fighters. Some of them are going to like the sweet science. Some of them are going to like the guys that fight in the phone booth. Me personally, I love it all. So it really doesn't matter. I appreciate every single fighter that gets in the ring and laces them up and risks their life for our entertainment. So kudos to every single fighter out there, regardless of whether you're on this list or not. So here's my top 10 pound for pound. In fact, I had a treat. I actually have 11. And the reason why I did 11 is because I have two guys that are tied for one spot. And there's a reason behind that. And once I get to that ranking, I'll explain why. And for those of you guys that say, that's not fair, it's supposed to be 10. Well, guess what? I want to pick 11 and it's my video. So you're going to have to live with it. But anyhow, let's get right to it. Let's start with number 10. My number 10 fighter fights in the lower weight classes, and his name is Jesse Bam Rodriguez. He is 19-0, 12 knockouts, and he is currently the unified WBO and IBF flyweight champ, but he's won titles in two different weight divisions, the other one being junior bantamweight. He's crafty. He's a beast, man. He'll break you down, as evident in his last fight against Sonny Edwards. That was a much anticipated fight. Two of the best at flyweight that had titles. Sonny Edwards came into that fight undefeated, had never been stopped, and Bam just broke him down. He put him down in the 9th round, and Sonny Edwards never came back out for the 10th. That's how bad it was. But it was a great fight. Don't get it twisted. I mean, these two guys went to war. In my opinion, it was one of the best fights of 2023. But Bam proved why he's the best guy in those lower weight classes. He's fundamentally sound, great jab, great combinations, and he was coached the right way. He's coached by Robert Garcia. And right now, they're looking at possibly putting him against Juan Francisco Estrada at 115, which is going to be a phenomenal fight. I look forward to seeing that. My number 9 is the takeover, Teofimo Lopez, who is 19-1 with 13 knockouts, and he's currently the WBO junior welterweight champion. He won that strap last year in 2023 by beating Josh Taylor by unanimous decision. A super impressive performance against a guy who I thought was the best 140-pounder at that time. But that's what Teofimo is, man. When the lights are brightest and the competition is at its best, that's when he's at his best. He's the type of fighter that usually will fight down to the competition. So once there is some kind of a challenge, an obstacle for him, that many feel he's not going to be able to overcome, that's when he's at his best. And he's a showman. You know, he'll go out there and he'll put on a show. And he'll do it with flair, which is the reason why they usually put him on weekends where there's something popping, like, you know, Heisman Trophy weekend. And as evident as what they're going to do a couple of days before the Super Bowl, he'll be fighting against Jermaine Ortiz there. But his boxing ability, when he is focused and he doesn't have any mental hurdles that he has to overcome, and that's happened quite a bit in his career, he can fight, man. He's got speed, timing, explosive power, and he's fun to watch. And if you don't think he can box, check out that fight against Vasily Lomachenko, who at the time was the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. He outboxed him. That, I believe, was his best performance. His worst, obviously, was against George Kambosos. He lost in a very close split decision, but he fought with an ailment. Doctor said he could have died in the ring. He had air in his chest. Either way, Teofimo is a special fighter, and if he keeps his head screwed on right, he's going to be hard to beat. I'd like to see him fight Devon Haney at 140. I think they're the two best 140-pound fighters, but we'll see. We'll see if the business of boxing allows that. Rumor has it that after Jermaine Ortiz, who he's fighting next, might be against Matias from Puerto Rico. That'll be another good fight at 140, two of the best there. My number 8 is one of my favorite fighters to watch because I love the sweet science of boxing. That's Shakur Stevenson. He's 21-0, 10 knockouts, and he's currently the WBC lightweight champion. He got that strap by beating Edwin De Los Santos in his last fight. Wasn't his best performance. It was a pretty boring fight. Few punches landed, but he's that good. I mean, he's just that good that even in his worst night, it's going to be difficult for anybody to beat this guy. Technically, he's one of the best that I've seen since Floyd Mayweather, in my opinion. And because of that, I think he's the most avoided because he'll make you look bad. He has mastered the art of hitting you and not getting hit. And trust me when I tell you, he just doesn't run. He can fight you in the inside and he can fight you on the outside and beat you both ways because he is a master thinker, uses his jab, controls distance. His timing is impeccable. There's no doubt in my mind this guy is going to probably be number 1 or number 2 in the rankings at some point in his career once he starts getting these bigger fights. But he's beaten, he's beaten a few good fighters. I mean, Oscar Valdez was one of his better performances, and Valdez will tell you he was one of the best in that division, and Valdez couldn't touch him. So it says a lot about Shakur's skills. I'd love to be able to see him fight against Tank Davis. I guess that's the fight that everybody wants to see. Two guys that are very familiar with each other, that sparred together when they were younger. Him against Devon Haney would be a classic fight. Even him against Teofimo Lopez. Well, who knows when we're going to see those fights. I'm pretty sure we will see them at some point down the road, and this is when I believe that he is going to start to shine. But with that skill level, I don't see anybody beating him anytime soon. My number 7 is Gervonta Tank Davis. And I know he recently turned Muslim and changed his name. I believe it's Abdul Wahid, but he'll always be Tank to me. And Tank is special, man. 29-0, 27 knockouts. He's held world titles in 3 different weight classes, from super featherweight all the way to junior welterweight. He's currently the WBA lightweight champion. And this guy has exceptional power. He's like a little Mike Tyson, man. He'll knock you out with one punch, either hand. And he has really good boxing ability, and I think it's slightly underrated. A lot of people look at as Tank as more of a power puncher, where I think he can do it all, man. He's a technician, and he can hit you and knock you out in one shot. His ring IQ can't be questioned. He's a great counterpuncher. He'll download information and then set you up with a big shot like he did to Rolly. A lot of people kind of crap on his resume, saying that he hasn't fought top guys, but I mean, I think he's fought some really good guys. Might not have been at the most opportune time. Maybe those guys weren't at their peak, but I mean, when you got a resume that got Pedraza, Gamboa, Leo Santa Cruz, even though Leo Santa Cruz was moving up in weight, he was holding his own in that fight until Tank Davis caught him with one of the most vicious uppercuts I've ever seen. Knocked him out cold. In fact, it was knockout of the year in 2020. He beat Mario Barrios. Isaac Cruz is a tough guy. He's probably going to fight him again. That's what the rumors are out there. And then let's not forget Ryan Garcia, man, which was the biggest fight, as far as revenue last year. These guys made a ton of money. It was a spectacle. And what did he do? He waited for Ryan to make his mistakes, and then he knocked him out with a body shot. Looked like Ryan Garcia quit. Tank's a special fighter, but it'd be interesting to see him against the Shakur Stevensons and the Devon Haneys. I mean, that's what the world wants to see. But either way, His skill set can't be denied. Speaking on skill set, my number 6 is Devon the Dream Haney. Currently, he's 31-0, 15 knockouts. He's the former undisputed lightweight champion, but now he's the current WBC 140-pound champion. He actually gave up those belts to move up to fight Regis Prograis in a fight that many thought he was probably taking too soon, moving up in weight against a tough guy, a hard puncher in Prograis. But in my opinion, it was probably his best performance to date. I mean, he dominated Regis. He totally outboxed him, controlled distance with the jab. I mean, Regis Prograis was absolutely lost in that fight. Let's not forget, even though it was a questionable decision, he has victories over Lomachenko. He beat George Kambosos twice. Beat Jorge Linares, Jojo Diaz. Some good fighters on his resume. Haney's a special fighter, man. And the thing about Haney is that in that fight at 140 moving up, at the time of the weigh-in, he looked like a welterweight. He looked much bigger than the guy that had been fighting naturally at that weight. So Devon Haney will have no problems moving up to 147. And with those type of skills, you can beat anybody. He's another master technician in that ring. And it's going to be interesting to see him against some of the better fighters that we talked about, with the Shakurs and the Tank Davises and the Teofimos. I think that's the biggest fight at 140. The thing I do like about Devon Haney is he's not afraid to take on the biggest challenges. In fact, he calls them out. So much respect to him. My number 5 is Saul Canelo Alvarez. I still think that Canelo is a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter, especially after this last performance against Jermell Charlo. And in my opinion, he's still boxing's biggest money draw, regardless of what Tank Davis is doing, regardless of what Ryan Garcia could potentially do. Nobody does it bigger than Canelo as far as money-wise, which is why most fighters want to fight him. Not only do they want the challenge of trying to beat him, but, I mean, that payday isn't too bad either. Canelo, for his career, is 60-2 with 2 draws and 39 knockouts. He's the first Mexican to win undisputed in the 4-belt era. He did that at super middleweight, and he still has those titles. But he's also won world titles in 4 different weight classes, from junior middleweight all the way to light heavyweight, which is super impressive. And he's beaten a lot of big names. His resume cannot be questioned, man. It's absolutely insane. And like I said, he just beat Jermell Charlo in very convincing fashion in a fight that most people thought would have been his most toughest challenge. He did lose against Dimitri Bol, but again, he was moving up in weight. So that tells you that Canelo is not afraid to challenge himself and take on the biggest challenges. And that's why I respect him the most. I still think he has a lot left in the gas tank. And the fight that everybody wants to see is against him and David Benavidez. I want to see that. But there's a lot of good fights for him out there as well, now that he's fighting under the PBC banner. So it'll be interesting to see how 2024 plays out. At number 4, this is where I got my 2 guys tied for that spot. And until they fight each other, I'm going to keep them there. But rumor has it that they're going to fight each other next to unify. And I promise, the winner will take number 4. The loser will come off the list. So this is a big fight for both of them. And that's Dimitri Bol and Artur Beterbiev. Both are light heavyweights. Both have straps. So like I said, they are going for a unification. Bivol is 22-0, 11 knockouts. He's currently the WBA light heavyweight champion, a belt that he's held since 2017. His biggest win on his resume was against Canelo, when Canelo was moving up in weight. But a lot of people, believe it or not, were picking Canelo to win that fight. But Dimitri Bivol, don't get it twisted. Even though he was the bigger guy, it seemed a good portion of that fight, he outboxed Canelo. He took the fight to Canelo, kept coming forward, has a good, long, hard jab, good fundamental techniques, good footwork, good head movement. He gave Canelo fits. And against Gilberto Ramirez, Zurdo, he just outboxed him easily. A lot of people thought that fight, including myself, was going to be a lot closer, and it just wasn't even close. He just outclassed him by unanimous decision. He's also beaten guys like John Pascal, Joe Smith, Sullivan Barrera, because he's been in there with some decent fighters. This one against Beterbiev, though, it's gonna be fire, man. I mean, Arthur Beterbiev, 20-0, 20 knockouts, 100% knockout ratio, and he just knocked out a guy this past week that had never been stopped, Callum Smith. He broke him down, and that's what he does, man. I mean, currently he's the WBC, IBF, and WBO light heavyweight champ. So again, this fight is to unify all the belts. This guy is heavy-handed, and he applies a relentless pressure. And in my opinion, you're going to have to hit him with a sledgehammer to hurt him. He just keeps coming forward. It's hard to beat a guy like that you know you can't keep off of you because he doesn't respect your power. Yet everything that he's hitting you with is like hitting you with a sledgehammer. He's got a few good wins on his resume as well, but this is going to be his biggest fight against Bivol. And it's going to be tough because, like I said, he's the harder hitter, but Bivol is more of the technician. Something's got to give in this fight. They're both from Russia, although Beterbiev also fights out of Canada. So again, until they fight each other, I'm going to have them both at number 4. We are down to my top 3. And at number 3, I got heavyweight champion Oleksandr Usyk, who is 21-0, 14 knockouts, and he's currently the WBA, WBO, IBF heavyweight champion. He beat Anthony Joshua twice. He's a 2012 Olympic gold medalist and a former cruiserweight champion. And he's going to be fighting Tyson Fury in February to unify the heavyweight division. Usyk is a special fighter for being as big as he is. He's a technician, great jab, great head movement. He's super smart. He can move around the ring. He's just a total package. And again, it's, in a division, in a heavyweight division where the guys are usually going out there banging it out, this guy is out boxing guys that are much bigger than him because he is considered a smaller heavyweight. But skill-wise, I really don't see anybody that could potentially beat him except for Fury, because Fury does possess that skill. But the thing about that fight is I wasn't really too keen on Fury's last performance against Francis Ngannou. And I think that soured him on a lot of people. In fact, he's the reason why, that fight is the reason why he's not currently on the top 10 pound-for-pound list, because he had been there for a very long time. I respect Fury. I think he's a great fighter as a heavyweight, the best heavyweight in the world. But I don't know. I think Usyk is going to take that title of best heavyweight once they fight. At number 2, I got the monster, another small guy that fights big, Naoya Inoue from Japan. And if you haven't seen this guy fight, do yourself a favor and YouTube and watch his fights. This guy is unbelievable. Speed, power, technique, footwork, you name it, he has it. In fact, most people are going to have him as number 1 on their pound-for-pound list. He's 26-0 with 23 knockouts. He's won world titles in 4 different weight classes, and he's currently the undisputed super bantamweight champion. He got that by beating Marlon Tapales in his last fight just a few weeks back, in a fight where Tapales was tough. He was game. But when you're fighting a guy like this, who's strong, who's accurate, who's fast, who's smart, he broke him down, and he knocked him out in the 10th round. But more impressively, and this is the reason why, in most people's eyes, he won 2023 Fighter of the Year, is he also stopped an undefeated champion earlier part of 2023, Stephen Coolboy Steph Fulton, who traveled to Japan to fight him, to try to unify. And he just, he stopped him in the 8th round. Super impressive. Another fighter with a high skill set. Skill level was up here. In a way, just made him look pedestrian, especially in the later rounds, in the middle to later rounds. He's fantastic. A lot of people don't know him because he fights mainly in Japan, and it's because he draws big there and he makes a lot of money there. But he's got to come to the States. He's that good, because watching him fight in the States is going to be a treat to even the casual boxing fans. I mean, the legit hardcore boxing heads, we all know who he is. But we really need the casual fans to catch on. This guy is a special fighter. He also beat Nonito Donaire twice, knocked out Jason Maloney. He's the real deal. He's the real deal. Could have easily been number 1, but I have him at number 2 for a reason. And that reason is named Terence Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford is my number one fighter pound for pound today. And in my opinion, he should be 2023 Fighter of the Year. And that's no disrespect to Inoue, because he was more than deserving as well. But what Terence Crawford did, even though he fought once against Errol Spence, was beyond special, because I don't think anybody saw that type of beating coming. I mean, that fight was one-sided, it was lopsided. And I think mostly every true boxing fan had that fight 50-50. Now, you had your favorite that you were rooting for. But realistically, it was a true 50-50 fight. You had two undefeated guys in their prime in a fight that had been anticipated for years, fighting for the welterweight crown, undisputed welterweight crown at that. And then Crawford goes out there and just dominates Spence, stops him. I mean, it was insane. I didn't see that coming. That was on my birthday weekend, and I was watching it with a bunch of friends, and we were all looking at each other like, wow. And again, it didn't surprise me that Crawford won, because he was the better, more skillful fighter, but it surprised me how he did it in such dominating fashion. And realistically, he showed you what he showed against other opponents. There's really no weakness in his game. He can fight you from the orthodox stance. He can fight you from southpaw. He can switch in the middle of the fight, in the middle of a round. He has great footwork, great technique, power, hits to the body, good head movement. If you hit him once, he'll hit you 2 times. He's a monster, man. He's a beast. He did win 2014 Fighter of the Year, and he is undisputed in 2 different weight classes. He was the first fighter to do that. Inoue has done it since then. So just 2 fighters in the history have done that in the 4-belt era. He can retire tomorrow. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. In fact, even before the Crawford fight, before the Spence fight. But if you had any doubt, then that just erased every doubt. He is a true great, and he's a joy to watch. 17-0, 14 knockouts in title fights. It'd be interesting to see what he does next. Hopefully he moves up in weight, takes on a bigger challenge. I know he wants to fight Canelo. I don't know if Canelo wants to do that. And most people will probably say, oh, it's moving up in weight. That might not be a good idea. But with those type of skills, I wouldn't count him out against Canelo. And I like Canelo. But that's how special Bud Crawford is. And that is my list of the top 10 or 11 pound-for-pound fighters as I have it seen. Again, that's my opinion. But truth be told, I expect a lot of feedback in the comments section. So feel free to drop a line. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree? Are there some fighters that you will pull out and you will put in instead? This is the beauty about this type of conversation, because us true boxing heads, we could debate about this all day because we all see it differently. And there's going to be reasons why we see it differently. And that's why I love to have these type of conversations. So definitely drop a line. The best part about this conversation is that it's an ongoing conversation, because this list always changes, right? It changes from month to month. So the list that I have today, it's not going to be the same list that I have next month or the same list the month after. So this is the way I see it today. But in 4 or 5 months, there'll probably be 5 guys on this list that I have today that won't be on this list. But that's the beauty of the sport. So I hope you enjoyed. And if you're new to watching my videos, please subscribe. That way you can come back more often and hang out with your boy here at the Hangout Spot. This is how we do it up. 2024 is going to be a big year for us, not just when we're talking boxing. We'll finish out the NFL season strong. We'll get into some NBA stuff. We'll also talk baseball. So we're going to do it up. Make sure you are here along for the ride. And let's not forget, next Wednesday, 8 o'clock, Facebook Live, I'll be co-hosting the OW Sports Podcast with my boy Vince. We're going to recap this week's playoff games. So make sure you tune in. But as always, I appreciate your support, appreciate you watching. This is your boy Johnny signing out from the Hangout Spot, and I'll talk to everybody soon.